Right, so my first demo then, I'm going to do the one with the Little Mermaid on. So I've done a little bit of matting and layering just to get us started, but I wanted to talk you through what I've done so far. So I've taken one of those 5-inch square card blanks, and again you can use it in the normal style, or you can use it with the fold at the top as a tent style, so whichever you prefer. So that's going to be my blank as such. Then I've taken a piece of, I've just added some of my smooth card in there just to use as a mat and layer from my stash. And I've taken a piece of that lovely turquoise cardstock. So that's going to be my background mat and layer there, just slightly smaller than the card blank. Then the next layer that I've got, you can just see I've come down about a quarter, half an inch there, and matted and layered a piece of that lovely pattern paper onto the top for my next layer. And this is the bit that I want to cut the window in. So I just need to have a look in my box and find those lovely set of dies. So let's take these out of their packet and have a closer look there. So I'm going to use the circular one this time, and you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dies in there. 3 of them have a lovely scalloped edge and 3 of them have got a straight edge. So I just need to take off the largest one of the straight edge dies there. So I'm going to pop those to one side, pop that to the other side, and I actually want to cut my circle right in the centre there of my piece of card, and this is going to go through both pieces. So I'm just going to take some of our low tack tape because I like to make sure everything is in the place, and when you're wanting something to be positioned like this, you do need to tape it down. So I'm going to bring my Gemini Junior plate in today and work onto there. I like to work down onto my plate. I'm just going to eyeball that and make sure that I've got around about the same distance all 4 sides there, and then when I'm happy with that positioning, I want to tape it down. And again, you've heard me say this sometimes if you've been watching me before, I do like to tape onto the bit that's actually going to come out. So with the pressure in the Gemini, just in case the tape actually snags your design paper there, if it's on that piece that I'm going to lose, it's not quite such a problem. So we're just going to layer up our plates for a normal cutting sandwich. So I've got my plastic shim, my magnetic shim, and another top plate there. And I've got the Gemini Junior plates, but I've actually got my big Gemini out. So these will go through here sideways. Excuse me. So I'm just going to pop those through. It's just an outline die. So because it's just got that sort of one continuous cutting edge, we should be safe going through there in one go. So I'm just going to check that it's gone through both layers. And if I just show you that there, absolutely perfect cut. You're always looking for what looks like that pencil line on the back, and if you can see that, you know that your die has gone through, and that's gone through those 2 layers. So I'm just going to gently release the tape off there, and again, just because the bulk of it is on the inside, it's not going to damage the piece that I'm going to work with. So that's now got my sort of little aperture in there. So let's move the plates out of the way there. So if I bring back in my mats and layers, this was going to be the next one here. And then what I've done, I've taken the largest of these dies, which has got a scalloped edge. Let me just retrieve my circular one from that piece, and I'll show you what I've done. If I pop it over that turquoise there, you'll be able to see what I've done. So I've used the largest scalloped edge one and the one that I've just used for the aperture, and I've die cut those out of a piece of white cardstock, and it's made me the most gorgeous little delicate frame there. All right, and that's what I'm going to pop around my aperture on that top layer there. So you can see how this is coming together now. We've got our space where the shaker pieces are going to fit. So the other thing that you got in your box, and again, this is the worst thing ever to try and show you on camera. If I just get that other piece of card again, we've got a piece of that acetate that I've cut. So I've just cut this large enough to go across the back of the aperture that I've cut here. So let's start assembling some of this together. So I'm going to use my double-sided tape pen, which I think most of us have in our stash. All right, and this will be strong enough to start and adhere these layers together. So the first one is going to be my matting and layering. So if you remember, I said I'd just taken some white card from my stash and added a piece of that lovely coloured cardstock that we get in your subscription box. And then I'm going to pop this over the top for our first set of matte and layers. So that's that one in place. Don't lose the acetate. Then the next one, I don't want to stick this directly onto here because we need to create some depth now so that when we put our shaker pieces in, there is room for them to move. If I stuck this straight onto here with the acetate in, there's not going to be any room for movement inside my aperture. So I'm going to assemble this bit ready. So I'm just going to take some of our tacky glue. So it comes to you like this. In fact, I think I've got one of the newer versions. Let me show you this one because we've put a new cap on them. Fantastic, similar to the all-purpose glue now, so it's just a twist and turn on them. So this is our PVA tacky glue, which dries fantastically, and I've just decanted it into one of our little applicator bottles so that it's easier, especially for fine pieces like this. So I'm just going to add a little tiny bit of glue onto the back of this frame that I've made with those metal dies, and again, these came out of the kit. So just a little bit there all the way around. And I tend to use my tweezers for anything small like this. And I'll pop it on this one again so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to line this up with that aperture. And because you've used the dies, you just know that everything's going to fit there perfectly. So I'm just going to hold it for a second. Our tacky glue just takes a second or two to grab. And then you've got a lovely bond there. And that's going to frame the outside piece. So then I'm going to turn this one over and work on the back because we need to pop our piece of acetate to cover the aperture. So just pop the pin back in your glue, Jan, so that it doesn't dry. And I'm going to go back to my tape pen this time. This is fine to adhere the acetate. So just forgive me a second. I'll do it on here so you can see roughly where I'm at. I'm just going to bring the tape pen round each edge, and if you've not used our tape pens before, this is double-sided adhesive, and just give it a flick when you get to the end just to break that adhesion there. Just flick it, otherwise sometimes you get that little stringy bit. So just pop it along and flick. That's all I need, just round the outside of that acetate. And then I'm going to come back to my piece of card there, and I'm going to stick this so that it covers the back of that aperture that we've cut in there. So that's nice and secure now. When I turn it back over, see if we can get that reflection going in the camera there. You can see now that it's got that lovely piece of acetate in the back there. So this is going to stop our shaker pieces falling out. So let's just lay that one down so that you can see. If you remember, we said now if we stick this down flat, we're not going to have any space to put our shaker pieces. So we need to create some depth now. And I'm going to do that with the foam tape. So you get a reel of slightly thicker foam tape in your box. So this is excellent for around the outside of that aperture. So I'm just going to use this and pop some right the way around the edge, because it all needs to be the same size. So I'm just going to go round the edge of our piece that we're going to put down on our next layer, snip it with my scissors. And the scissors, I love, the best thing about the scissors is that they're non-stick. I used to forever be getting bits of tape and stuff stuck to my old scissors, but these are brilliant, non-stick, so it doesn't bring off any of the adhesive. So all the way around there, just to seal the outside part. And then you have a choice then as to what you want to do with the next bit. I'm going to show you both aspects of it. So once we've sealed the outside bit there, you could pop your shakers now in this gap here. But to be honest, it's actually there's a lot of space around the edge here that's still cardstock. So in order to contain those pieces, I'm actually going to put some tape around the edge of that aperture, and then the shaker pieces will just stay in the window rather than disappearing behind the pieces that you're actually not going to see them. And I've got in my kit, I've actually got some slightly narrower, so I'm just going to go to this one, but you could still use the wide one. I'm just going to use this narrower one, and I'm going to follow the edge of that aperture and literally seal it all the way round. And then those shaker pieces are going to stay inside that little window. It seems silly to me to have them disappearing behind a section that you're not going to see. So with this, the secret is to make sure that that foam meets where you started and finished. You don't want any gaps in it, otherwise those little shaker bits are going to escape into those and hide in those other places. So I've made sure it matches here. So we've now created a little well now that we can put those shaker pieces inside. So when I actually pop this on top of my card, I think that's probably the best way, we've got some depth in there to allow that movement with the shaker pieces. So just popped a few into a packet here, so let me just get those out of there. And this is from the blue section, so we've got a couple of shades of blue. We have got some round ones in there, we've got some stars in there. I can see I'm going to end up with these everywhere in a second. Let me just cut that piece off the top. Stuck them up well so that they didn't escape. Now then, again, two ways of doing this, so I'll talk you through both of them. Neither way is right or wrong, it's up to you, and I've said this many times, that you find a way that works for you, and I'll show you which way I prefer, and some people do it the opposite way. So you can either turn this one over and pop your shaker pieces in that little well that we've created, and then you can pop this piece on the top. Now I sometimes struggle with that in that I don't get things straight. So what I'm going to do is actually pop my shaker pieces into the centre of this one and then take the sticky off and literally pop this over the top and keep them contained. So try both ways if you haven't done this before, see what works best for you and you adopt the style that suits you the best. So I'm just going to take that quick release tape off the back there and get this ready. And sometimes, I know customers have said to me in the past that sometimes they have issues with the shaker pieces sticking to the foam. So occasionally the inside of the foam here can be a wee bit tacky. So if that happens and you have got an anti-static pad for stamping with, just rub that around the inside of the tape and it takes away some of the tack. If you haven't got something like that, you could use a bit of talcum powder or a bit of cornstarch, anything like that, just to take away the tacky part from the inside of the tape. So I'm just going to carefully take all my tape off, get rid of that and leave that one at the ready. And then just in the centre of my mat and layer now, I'm going to pop some of these shaker pieces. So let's just pop some of those out. Whoops. And then just pop them into the middle there. And again, you can see that there's lots of different shades, little stars in there and all sorts, different size sequins. So make sure they're all in the centre there. Make sure everything's the right way up. If you've got an orientation on your patterned paper, check that that's the right way. And then you can see now that those shaker pieces are actually in the right place. So just excuse me while I lean over there, just to get that centred. And I'm going to stick that piece down now. Give it a good press so that that foam tape adheres to your mat and layers. And then you've got those shaker pieces safely contained inside that little aperture. And the reason that I went round here with the foam tape was, if you remember, we said that the other tape was right on the edge. So these shaker pieces are going to be able to get right out to the corners there and probably not see them as well as you could by literally encasing that aperture. So we've got that so far. So let me just move those to one side so that they don't end up all over the place. And then just to bring those stamp sets back in, I'm going to do a little bit of stamping for you. So I'll bring that piece in again so that we can see a bit better. We've got the 2 stamp sets there. So I'm going to choose a sentiment to go on my card, and I'm also going to choose a bit of decoration. I've done a little bit ahead of time just to give us a bit of a catch up. So I've chosen the Little Mermaid for this one. So I'm just going to layer over the top of the stamp. I'm coloured her in with my alcohol markers, and she's going to be one of my embellishments today to go on the card. So I'll pop that one to one side, and then we're going to stamp the happy birthday out. So let me just open the stamp set up, and they're a clear polymer stamp that you get. So these are already tacky, so you don't need to worry about how you're going to affix them to your block. So just remove the carrier sheet, take that one off the top, and then gently just release your stamp from the sheet there. And then I'm going to bring in my stamping equipment. So I've got my stamping mat out, I've also got my stamping platform, and I've got my Finesse waterproof ink. All right, so if I was going to be doing the colouring aspect, I said I'd done the Little Mermaid with my alcohol pens, I would be using my Finesse for alcohol markers. So just for the actual sentiment, I'm okay with the watercolour one. So my stamping platform has got its little springy legs on. I need to flip it over and pop the stamp on the back. And you can use the grid lines to line up. Turn it around the right way, Jan. Line up the writing there so that we've got it straight. Clings to your platform, and I've got a little tiny scrap of card at the ready that I'm just going to line up on the grid there. Take my stamping ink and take it to the stamp and just give it a few taps. A nice good covering of ink there so that we get a nice solid outline. So pop that to one side, flip it over. You can use this to centre where you want to go before you commit to stamping, and then once you're ready, pop that down, give it a press. I usually hold it a couple of seconds just so that the ink can soak into the cardstock, and away we go. That's our little stamp sentiment there. So pop that to one side, and I've actually pre-done this one and matted and layered it on a piece of the turquoise card so that it all carries on with that colour scheme that we've picked. And then I've also stamped out a Let's Celebrate as well. So I'm going to pop these onto my card now. Just going to have a little look, just remind myself where I put everything on that one. There we go. So just going to use a little bit, I'm going to use some foam pads. We've got some pads there just on the back of that one to raise it up. So we'll just pop a couple of foam pads from my stash on the back of that one. So just take those pieces off there, and same on that one. And then we're going to pop that at the top there. So just again, make sure that I'm working the right way. We'll have that one on the top. I'm going to go back to my tacky glue again that's in my little applicator, and just on the back of that I've just fussy cut her out once I've coloured her. Little bit of tacky glue, and again I tend to work with my my tweezers for anything that's small. She's going to sit at the bottom there like so. Just hold it down. As I say, it just takes a couple of seconds for it to grab, and then I'm going to keep this bottom one flat, so I'm just going to use that same glue on the back of this one and pop that right across the bottom here. So with the wet glue, you've got that little bit of time to just wriggle it into place, hold it down for a second or two, and then we should have that nice adhering. So just pop my pin in there, tidy a space, and then we can turn this one round and show you that one a bit more close up. So that's my first demo complete there with all those lovely shaker pieces inside, and we've got a tent style card on that one.